Ready to reconceive, reshape, renew, and rebuild? We're talking buildings of the future. It's the perfect time to renew our living ecosystems to be smarter, safer, sustainable. Retrofit with the hardware, software, and services that create real resilience. Redesign with more digital, more electric, and more efficiency. Retool so they revise, react, and respond to our needs. Life is on.
Edition 5. So glad to be with you. And I got to say, just got back from a little trip. We were exploring our sites for Realcomm and IBCon 2021. Exciting times. I'm not going to let on right now. I'm going to kind of keep it under wraps for right now, but we should have some great news in a couple of weeks or less. So look forward to that. So as you know, each week Realcomm Live tries to find those people or those projects globally that are really pushing innovation. And we travel all over the world, Europe, Middle East, Asia. We've had some great guests on in the last couple of weeks. And this week we found a particularly innovative, extraordinary project right here in the United States in Pittsburgh called Fifth Dinwiddie. It is innovative on a lot of different levels. And we've got 3 great guests today who are going to share with us what makes this project innovative. But most importantly, what was the cause? What was the impetus to take these risks and these chances? As I mentioned to the guests in the green room, you know, we can talk about the technology, we can stitch together all the different pieces and parts of a smart, intelligent building. But at the beginning, it is the innovation quest, it is the vision of the developer that has to be that spark. And we've got a great story for you here today. So why don't we bring on our guests? We have got Derrick Tillman, President and CEO of Bridging the Gap Development, who's the visionary behind this. Donny Walker, partner of Newcomb and Boyd, and Craig Stevenson, the President of AUROS Group. Guys, good to see you. How are you?
Good to see you.
You know, I'll tell you, we've been talking about this project, you know, for a couple of weeks now, and the more I learn, the more excited I get, because not only is it a good project on its own, but if followed the blueprint for it, I think we might have a roadmap of projects for this in the future, right? So what I would like to do is go right to the heart of the conversation and start with Derrick. Where was the vision? What was the day? You know, why are you in development? Who are you? Give the audience a little of your background that will help us understand how you came to this very exciting, innovative project on Fifth Dinwiddie.
Sure. Thank you, Jim, for the opportunity to come speak to the audience today. So again, I'm Derrick Tillman, President and CEO of a company called Bridging the Gap Development. We were founded in 2006, focusing on bridging gaps of opportunity and also bridging gaps in development. You know, really part of growing up, you know, I saw a lot of things happen and really got into development to really become part of the solution from a sustainability perspective, from an equitable development perspective, and knew that my background and experiences could bring a lot of insight and innovation to this industry. So one, you know, thing also, being a graduate from the University of Pittsburgh with a degree in information science, you know, I realized I didn't want to be a programmer, found my, you know, vision and calling in development, but still wanted to utilize that background and connect technology to real estate. And we're doing that right here with this project, Fifth Dinwiddie, that you noted. So this is really a follow-up to my last project, the Miller Street Apartments, where we incorporated sustainable development components, but we didn't go all the way. And we didn't have a way to measure it. So with Fifth Dinwiddie, we said it's time to raise the bar another level. The project consists of developing both sides of the street in a community called Uptown, which is an eco-innovation district. We're developing the east side, which consists of renovating a 20,000 square foot office building and adding on a 20,000 square foot addition. Within the building, we will do commercial office space. We will do, we'll have co-working space. We'll also have a clean energy jobs program, really focused on training folks in the clean energy sector, and a small footprint of retail. Directly across the street is the west side. What we're doing there is new construction, 171 units. It'll include 80% market rate, 20% affordable, as well as 12,000 square feet of retail space. What we wanted to do with both projects is incorporate Passive House. Passive House sets a new standard for energy efficiency and sustainability. We're also doing Reset Air, which is also focused on really a higher level of air quality, setting a new standard. It's never been done before in multifamily. This will be the first project in the nation. We will be Fitwel certified. So with all these innovative, transformative components, I wanted to be able to measure it. I wanted to really be able to know that I got what I paid for. So here we have this intersection to really prove it, to have a data-driven, results-oriented development project.
Now, your DNA, which is very unusual in that you have a technology background, it's much like mine. I started my career in technology, and then early on I made the shift to real estate. There is a distinct difference on the trajectory of somebody focusing on megabytes versus cap rates. Okay, there's two different languages, there's two different goals and objectives. Does your background in IT change the way you look at real estate?
I think it does. I think it does too.
All right. Speaking of technology, I think we're having some trouble with Derrick. So that was really good timing. We were talking about technology. So we're gonna pause Derrick for 1 second. Hopefully your broadband will come back around. And I'm gonna shift to Craig real quick, because Craig, you're a critical component of this project in that you understand the value of data and what it can do to lead to a high performance building. Why don't you take it from here, and then we'll go back to Craig in a minute.
Thanks, Jim. First of all, thank you for letting us join you, Realcomm Live. This is a special event. I've been paying attention to them for a long time, and I love the way you guys have these types of conversations. We're very proud to be a part of the project with Derrick, and when he came to us early on, and talked about his aspirations in bridging the gap between community and sustainability and making a difference in climate change, we basically sat with him and started to figure out, where do you want to go? How much do you want to be? What we helped Derrick do on the project, and what our role here is to align the entire project team around to a set of metrics built around sustainability goals. That's referred to as an owner's project requirements report, but ours is literally based on data and metrics. And the reason why we do that is because we have an expertise in simulation and modeling for buildings. And when he talks about Passive House, that's certain energy targets that we're going after using an envelope first strategy. So as we start to do this, and it's really interesting that when you have a project team that's so engaged, and Derrick did an amazing job of creating a great project team for Fifth Dinwiddie. When you create metrics, Jim, everybody seems to align to metrics, right? We're not talking about aspirations or checking boxes on a sustainable program. We're talking about designing to a set of goals. And right at the beginning, when Derrick started saying, well, I just don't want to win in design. I want to make sure that I get this building and operates for 50 years. That's when we started looking around the room, and we started working with Donny, and we said, okay, Donny, we have a evidence-based lead coming in for our alignment to our project teams. How do we develop a strategy to give us a connectivity between building science and data science that really doesn't exist in the world today, right? We build aspirational buildings, and sometimes we can we design them, sometimes we can build them, but it's rare when you see design and construction connecting to operations in a way that we are able to connect it. And we connect it by connecting the energy simulation targets and all the owner's project requirement targets right to the actual meters and sensors that Donny's team is helping us align with the building. So Derrick will know right away, did I win or lose? Is the building giving me back exactly what we wanted from it?
Now, I believe you have a slide on this, correct?
We do.
Okay, why don't we bring that slide up? So, we've been talking about data forever, right, in the Realcomm IBCon world. But it's another thing to deliver on it. You just started to give some specifics. Why don't you and Derrick give us a little idea of tangible, simple outcomes that any real estate owner, operator, developer could understand that you can get as a result of having good data?
Yep, Derrick, is your bandwidth back on?
Yes.
You want to go ahead first?
Sure. So ultimately, we want to know that our building is operating at more efficient operating costs, lower operating costs, which is going to boost our net operating income and ultimately the value of the building. Also for our residents, we want to know that this is resulting in lower utility bills for our residents. I think those are two of the main drivers. And then just a building that is more sustainable, energy efficient. These are the things I think in plain English that we're looking to do. But again, not just saying it, but proving it.
And Jim, on the right side of the graph right here that everybody's looking at, you see that little green line. That's all the difference, right? So the blue bars represent the meters that we're getting, and that could be anything from energy meters for gas, electric, any form of energy coming in the building. And it can also be sensors for air quality, temperature, humidity, and CO2. The green line represents the simulated targets. We can export all the simulated targets for all forms of energy and temperature, humidity, and CO2 for air quality and superimpose them right onto the actual dashboard itself. So it gives us a different context rather than using historics.
Okay. All right, Nancy, you can bring us back. So the idea here, I mean, and we have been talking about data center buildings for a while, okay? What's the first benefit you expect? Is it lower cost? Is it meeting CO2 objectives? Is it all of the above?
Well, normally you would think that it is energy, but once we get into the project and you start developing your own project requirements, and we do a discovery charrette with Derrick and his team of stakeholders, very, very quickly we see that indoor air quality and indoor environmental quality are raising to the top. COVID is giving us an awareness around building performance that we just have never seen before, Jim. When you talk about people talking about whether they're ever going to come back to work in these buildings or where do they want to live for the multifamily side of this, we have to get at air quality. Air quality is the biggest challenge I think we see in the market today in defining, am I in a healthy building? Am I in a building that has hygiene ventilation and that it's breathing right without spending a lot of money in third-party bolt-ons like UV and bipolar ionization after the fact, right? We can design the buildings right coming out of the gate. That's where we can save money. And ultimately, Derrick has a mantra he's instilled in our entire project team. I don't want to pay a premium. I'm a developer.
Why should you? I mean, why should you really?
I'm a developer and I want to basically do this at par. So when we set our goals, around doing things without spending a premium, and air quality has been among the top of those in our goals.
So I've been around this conversation for a while, and the conversation of smart, connected, high performance, intelligent buildings, lots of names, started with energy. Then it went to operational efficiency. Right before COVID, the big theme of Realcomm IBCon 2019 in Nashville was occupant experience, right? Controlling the building from your cell phone. Then COVID hit. Now wellness is back, right? Now with it seems that energy is back in the spotlight. But Derrick, is it safe to say that you're much better off to look at all the benefits attributed to a smart building and not just focus on one aspect of an intelligent building?
Absolutely. I think we have to look at this from a comprehensive perspective. And, we see ourselves as really setting that standard, incorporating all of them, meeting all these metrics, still being sustainable, still being equitable, and doing it without paying a premium. So absolutely.
And if you think about it, if you look at cost justification, if you have an infrastructure, which we're going to get to Donny after the break, what does infrastructure look like? If you have that infrastructure in place, to your point, Craig, you can bolt stuff on after the fact if you've designed it correctly from the beginning. And if you cost justify that infrastructure and the smarts of a building over 5 or 6 different objectives, it's much easier, correct there?
Well,
I mean,
you can always bolt on operational technologies given the right platform, and that's what Donny has done for us. But to your point, how do I get energy and air quality? And what we've discovered with our project team is that taking an envelope first approach, an envelope first efficiency approach to the project, like Passive House dictates, then we can do both simultaneously. An envelope first approach is a much superior thermal barrier and air barrier. The air comes into our buildings in ductwork that we want it to come through, and we filter it. It doesn't come through infiltration and exfiltration. That gets at air quality almost immediately. And guess what else, Jim? It fixes our energy, because now all of a sudden I don't have to buy new heating and cooling. I can retain that, put it in an energy recovery. And that's where Passive House gets us to the very low energy thresholds without spending a lot of money. So I do agree with you. There is a strategy to build the right building using an envelope first approach. And then to your point, have the right infrastructure in place so that I can do bolt-on operational technology networks to the extent we want to start adding capabilities, like pre-COVID amenities where, it was about the experience, right?
All right. And we chatted about this earlier. That's where I want to see that illustration. I want to see that ductwork. I want to see the airflows. We don't have time, unfortunately, but we are going to really look at getting a webinar together on this topic so we can go much deeper. This is kind of the tease, if you will, because there are an incredible amount of great details. So guys, hold your thoughts for a second. And I want to say thank you to both Craig and Donny for being special sponsors for this Realcomm Live. I mean, it takes time, energy, and money to put these on, and we really do appreciate and in some extent require sponsorship. And I just want to say thank you to both of those two guys and their companies, AUROS and Newcomb and Boyd, for sponsoring this and taking the time to bring a great conversation to our audience. So with that, let's go to a quick break and we'll be back.
Teams working in silos can't deliver high-performance results like healthy indoor air quality or zero energy because team members set goals independently, which leads to delays, wasted money, and missed targets. With AUROS 360 technology, we define common objectives from the start, predict building performance before construction, using digital simulation and modeling to deliver the highest performance at the lowest possible cost. And you get proof that your building achieved the outcomes you paid for. Contact AUROS Group today to take the first step.
All right, and let's bring our guests back and continue this great conversation. And by the way, Craig, very nicely done commercial. We've actually been asking the industry to get their thoughts into 30, 60-second snippets, if you will, because everybody's so busy, and we asked them to be communicative. And for that commercial, did a good job at letting us know what you guys do.
Thank you.
And again, Donny, thank you as well for your support. So let's pivot a little bit to Donny. And you're the guy who's the big idea from the developer. Craig kind of puts his hands around it and shapes and helps to get it formed. And then they come to you, and I think they said, Donny, now make it work. Is that kind of what I thought I heard in our conversation?
That's right.
What was that?
That's right, for sure.
Yeah. All right. So let's start. Before we bring your drawing and your illustrations on, high level, what did they ask you to do?
Yeah, so it was unique from the start, knowing that we had a data-centric model, both from the design and the operations, which is really key in what we look at designing intelligent buildings. And so we knew this would be a fun, unique, and challenging project. And so we brought our operational technology group to the team and have been really enjoying the collaboration.
Very good. All right, why don't we bring up your first illustration? And there's been a few times in my career when I've seen something that I go, we're on to the next step. And when I saw the level of thought and detail that went into this technical specification on OT, I said, we got to take a couple minutes and talk about it. In fact, we got to take a long time. Unfortunately, we'll have a couple, but why don't you walk us through this?
Sure. Yeah. One of the foundations that we needed to start with, knowing that we had a data-centric approach, is we needed the network to build on. We talk about it all the time at Realcomm, IBCon events, and that operational technology network is so critical. But it's also something that's been difficult to justify in multifamily projects. And so, many multifamily projects we've been a part of. They have technology goals, but aligning that budget and getting the technology to be infused as a part of the project rather than thought of as an add-on. With this being foundational from the start, it really gave us the leverage to say, let's build on this technology and use it as the backbone for all the things that we're trying to accomplish. And so in order to really align that and bring the budget together, we wanted to put the architecture in a way that it made it clear that there were different elements that are building on this backbone. So that's the reason that you see this kind of laid out in the CSI division format, is that what we're illustrating here is for our security consultant or our security contractor for the project, that it's really just typical cameras, access control, and those types of things that are building on our operational technology network. The same thing for our traditional building controls and traditional building components. But then what that allowed us to do with that data model is to bring in IoT where we need to really gather new data points that typical projects don't have. And so when we started looking for ways to measure the potential of water within the units, and also looking at indoor air quality, rather than having the expense of a network that proliferates throughout the building and even dealing with network security issues into the individual units, we're using the wireless LoRaWAN. So we have these LoRaWAN gateways that are now giving us the ability to really enrich the data points that we're able to pull in from the individual units, and in a much more economical way. And so now
I want to get to your next slide as well. I don't want to run out of time. Why don't we bring that next slide up?
Yeah, go ahead and shift to the next slide. So the next slide is really just the continuation of this and really showing more of the individual units. And so now we're pulling in the indoor air quality from each unit, the water meters, and then as you see, more of the typical mechanical, electrical components at the roof, along with the solar. And so all of this feeds into an open platform, as you would expect. But more importantly than that, it's an open API to get data directly into Craig's system that does our complete system M&V and validation, which is a unique requirement of both Passive House and Reset to have that ongoing M&V requirement. And so now we've got the data points to prove it.
So I'm going to allow Derrick to kind of answer the question that we started with before his broadband jolted a little bit. Derrick, with your IT background, were you glad to see a spec sheet that looked more like a IT data sheet than we traditionally see in the built environment?
Absolutely. One thing about IT is that it's about innovation, it's about disruption, about coming up with a better mousetrap. And real estate has kind of trailed behind as it relates. So I really was excited to incorporate the two here to come up with a better way to build buildings, a better, more healthier building ultimately. So, yeah. Yes.
And Donny and Craig, real quick, out of 10 real estate owner, operator, developers, how many people ask for or expect what we just saw from you, Donny? Out of 10.
Expecting this completely, this is the first.
Okay. Craig, I mean, this is the next chapter is what I'm saying.
So, I mean, I'll take a different approach to that question, Jim, in that out of 10 developers, how many developers are starting to ask for accountability? How many developers are starting to ask for proven air quality levels in buildings? And my answer to that is every single one of them. Now, have they been as thought leaders as Derrick has been to understand the difference between open and proprietary units, and how do I get my data into an open system, and what do I do with it once I get it, and bring it into a back end and share that back end into anything you want to go to, whether it's fault detection, diagnostic, condition-based maintenance. We all know what we can do with that data.
We can do, right?
Realcomm Live, right? Everybody should have a general understanding. The difference is that owners are starting to demand from us accountability, and that's how we see the world shifting right now, is that it's going to a data-centric environment. We just happen to have a great team, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention GBBN Architects is the architect on the team. Michael Baker International is our engineering firm on the team doing MEP and site and civil and structural. So we have a really outstanding team here, Jim. We were able to get at it very early, which saved us a ton of money, going into construction.
Right.
And this is almost like Donny calls it like VE on the fly. And it really is. It's value engineering on the fly to make sure that we have a job that meets our budget, yet doesn't sacrifice our goals.
Well, as I suspected, I told you guys it was going to go fast. We just hit the tip of the iceberg. 30 seconds for each of you. Derrick, to your fellow developers, what do you tell them? 30 seconds.
This is the wave of the future. It's time to jump on board. It makes sense from an economic perspective, from a sustainable perspective. Why not do it? And it can be done at cost period. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I think that last statement is so true. It does not have to cost extra. What I used to always tell people is just downgrade the marble in the lobby a little bit, and you'll have more than enough money to pay for all of these other things. Craig, final thoughts.
Yeah, but Jim, you don't get always asked to justify why you're going to marble over plastic laminate. Yet when Donny and I want to have a conversation about technology, they make us value engineer it to 15 pages deep.
Amen. You are preaching to the choir.
I know. So to me, my closing remark would be simply that, we're honored to be on this team. Derrick has shown us the way and how to do it without spending a premium. I'm honored to work with this entire team because they are thought leaders, and it's nice that we don't have to drag people into a conversation about how do we get our data. They're usually 3 steps ahead of us. And that's because of the alignment we did earlier on metrics. And now everybody's bringing their best practices, their experience, everything that they can to bear on this project. And that's what we're seeing happen on here. And that's why I think this is a really special project.
Innovation momentum. I love it.
It really is.
Donny, you're going to close it up.
All right. One of the things we talked about earlier is that the unique perspective of this project is that the ownership, development, design team all leaning in together with these high aspirations and unique goals. And the what's next part is, we're currently selecting contractors, vendors, integrators, and we're looking for a team that's going to deliver the project and that will lean in with us. And so, we're completely moving towards being able to present this as a project success story. And so building the rest of the team out that's going to lead us to success is the critical part we're at now.
Well, we now have 20 plus minutes of dialogue. As soon as this is posted up to YouTube, get out there, tweet it, LinkedIn, get it out on social media, share it, because I think what people could learn a lot in these 20 plus minutes. So unfortunately, guys, we are out of time. Thank you again for participating. Thanks to Craig and Donny, AUROS and Newcomb Boyd for sponsoring this great episode. And you guys have a great weekend, and thank you again. Be well.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Take care. All right, with that, we are going to bring on Howard. I worked into your time a little bit, Howard. I apologize, but we know you know how to talk fast, and we're going to get right into our weekly news brief.
So every week we highlight a few of the stories from our weekly news briefing that's released every Thursday about 11 a.m. Pacific. And our lead article this week features insights from 3 of our Realcomm and IBCon advisors on how Australia is dealing with their commercial office building reoccupancy. And in the article, we hear from Dave Palin, Sustainability Manager for Mirvac, Sheridan Ware, who's both CIO and CTO from Charter Hall, and Mark Hansen, Chief Information Officer from Dexus. And each of these contributors provided perspective on their respective COVID journeys and how they're planning the next phase of reoccupancy. There's also a link to Mirvac's white paper, COVID-19 and the Changing World of Work. It's an excellent study where they researched 100+ academic reports and research papers, interviewed employees, had deep dive conversations with office customers, architects, workplace experts. And then they synthesized all their findings into 11 key insights. Great article. Don't miss it. And I'm going to try to get through this quickly. Last but not least, we're really honored to announce that Kevin Danahy, longtime Realcomm advisor and friend, made the transition from his 9-year-old stint as EVP, Global Head of Corporate Development at Brookfield, is now CEO of Willow North America. Willow started by Josh Ridley out of Sydney in 2017. And they've created a digital twin for the built world that digitally represents physical assets, overlaid with real-time data on how those assets are performing. and is really leading the charge in developing and deploying this technology platform across multiple asset classes: commercial, office, transportation, construction, infrastructure. Direct quote from Kevin: "Willow is placed at the center of technology shift of the built world and will fundamentally transform the future of real assets." Kevin, we're happy for you in your new venture. Look forward to even more industry-changing innovation from Willow. And I know I am totally out of time now, so that's it for me today. But there's a lot more in our weekly briefing. Check it out, and I'll see you all next week.
All right, my friend, sorry to do that to you. Too much good content, but you got it done, and we really appreciate all the work you're doing. All right, so before we wrap, let's hear from our final sponsor, LinkSpring, longtime sponsor and supporter of our community. And with that, I'll come back and give you a little bit on next week's.
Facility operating costs can make up almost 1/3 of an organization's overhead. With that type of expense at stake, it's essential for today's commercial buildings to replace siloed systems with systems that are connected, smart, integrated, and interoperable. LinkSpring's Edge to Enterprise for enterprise and multi-sites is a turnkey smart building solution that connects, accesses, and translates operational and facility data from devices and equipment into actionable information. Information that can save energy, increase efficiency, and reduce operating costs while maintaining a higher level of comfort for occupants. The Edge to Enterprise solution consists of hardware and software, combined with engineering, deployment, and professional services. It's everything you need to deploy and experience the value of a smart facility enterprise.
All right. Well, again, thank you to our great guests, our sponsors, Howard and team, Nance behind the scenes for a great episode. And next week, we are going to be flying from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, all the way over to Milan, Italy. We are searching the world for innovation, and we're finding it. Despite COVID and all the all the problems that it caused, innovation is alive and well. So next week, we're going to explore one of Italy's largest and most innovative real estate projects, the Milan Innovation District, also known as MIND. It's huge. Andrea Ruxville, head of Lend-Lease Continental Europe, and Susan Constantine, head of digital for Lend-Lease Italy, are going to share with us some of the leading edge thinking going behind this project. It's an episode you're surely not going to want to miss. So with that, thank you, and you have a great weekend. We will see you next Friday. Be well.